Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Bolier Talks Tech. Today, we are focusing on the topic of how to build a recruitment marketing technology stack. And I'm here with a subject matter expert, my good industry friend, Jeff. Jeff, can you shortly introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Renee, for having me this session. My name is Jeffrey Hamelink. I'm a co-founder of Direct Impact. Have about 15 years of experience in e-commerce recruitment. Gained my working experience mostly at companies like Coolblue, Bol.com, Samsung, and in recruitment at Maandag, TechSharks, Career Control, Felix, for example. What do we do at Direct Impact? Direct Impact, we focus on increasing customer and candidate conversions by using marketing technology. And we do this for companies both in recruitment, e-commerce, and software as a service companies.
All right. Thank you for that. So, as we both know, and we are both profiting from that, of course, in our businesses as well, but more in general speaking, within the market, we see more and more people talking about recruitment, not just recruitment technology, but specifically recruitment marketing technology. And some of them are already talking about building a recruitment marketing technology stack. So, before we dive into the topic, what do we mean by a recruitment marketing technology stack?
Yeah, for me, a recruitment marketing technology stack is nothing more than a toolbox of tools you use to increase candidate conversion rates. Um, you're not focusing on gathering new leads, you especially focus on getting the value of what you have in the database. So
Mhm.
as you can see on the slide, that's the main goal. So it's nothing more. This is the same if you want to lay down a new floor. You're working on your car. You use different tools for
Yeah.
different goals, and a marketing stack
Yeah.
is nothing more than a toolkit.
So as we can see, Jeff, we on your slide, you are focusing on a couple of things. So for me, one of the questions would be, for example, if you talk about the recruitment marketing technology stack, does it focus on the entire candidate journey, or does it, start somewhere later than the first beginning point, or does it stop somewhere before the really last end point? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on your stack, of course. If you have the right tools in place to fully map the candidate journey. If you have a
Mhm.
pretty simple stack, then you won't be able to do that. So yeah, again, it depends on the tools you have available in your stack.
Right. And so if I am a recruitment marketing, what are, let's say, my main and sub goals, and what do I keep in mind when I build up a recruitment marketing technology stack?
Yeah, first it's very important to start with setting your goals and objectives. What do you want to achieve with your recruitment marketing stack? Otherwise, it's very difficult to select the right tools and to use the tools what they're capable of. Um, it's also really important to pick a tool that works for you. So
Mhm.
don't pick the tool that's best in class or that people review a lot about. Because especially the user experience from a certain tool can either break or make the value you get from the tool.
Yeah,
Third point is also to pick a tool that fits your budget. We have tools available in the market for, let's say, 50 euros a month, and you have tools available which you have to pay 30K a year for license
yeah,
fees.
yeah.
So yeah, for every budget, there's a tool available. There's about 8,000 marketing tech tools available in the market. So
Right.
there's a tool for any budget.
Yeah. So
It's also very
also
yeah.
yeah, also to clarify maybe for our audience, if we talk about recruitment marketing technology stack specifically, what would you say are the types of tools that, if you look at one of those stacks that you can find it in there?
Yeah, if it's a really basic slide, so a basic stack, which I can show you a slide of. We have an example. This is some
Mhm.
tools so you have available based on a funnel in the candidate journey. So you can pick certain tools for marketing planning. You can pick certain tools to attract candidates or convert candidates or nurture.
Yeah.
So these are just some examples. If you look at another slide, I can show you a simple stack. For instance, if you're a lonely recruitment marketer, either you're a freelancer or you work for a small company, what you can see here in the middle is you've selected a job site. Sometimes you work like, for instance, a tool like Recruitee, where they offer, it's an applicant tracking system and job site in one. So that's the basic of your selection. It's one of the most important tools because that's where you publish your jobs. Then you will install Google Tag Manager. So Google Tag Manager allows you to upload or install any recruitment marketing tech tools by yourself without need of expensive or developers who don't have time to do that for you. Then on the right-hand side, you'll see channels where you publish your jobs into. For instance, you might publish them to LinkedIn, you might have some job slots, or you publish them on Indeed, or you have some pay-per-credit job boards, for example, Nationale Vacaturebank or any other ones. And then at the bottom, you see Google Analytics, which would be your basic analytic tool to check out what's happening to the traffic of my jobs. How many people are looking at them? Where's the traffic coming from? And so, what's the value? And in the top, you see a small stack for publishing content organically on, for instance, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, which you can use a pretty simple tool like Buffer for, just to focus on organic content. You might also want to publish jobs through that channel. Buffer allows you to automate your content or to plan content. So this is basically a pretty simple stack, which I think most recruitment marketers should have available to them.
Right, and so if we look at the very simple stack that you just showed, then actually, for example, your ATS, applicant tracking system, is a pretty big part of your stack in a basic setup. And not a lot of marketeers, I think, that work on recruitment marketing would say that their ATS is actually part of their marketing tech stack. What would you say?
I would say to them, it's time to wake up and smell the coffee, because it's a very important tool in your stack, because it stores a lot of valuable data which you want to use, even if you're marketing or you're a recruiter or you're a recruitment marketeer. If you're in the line of attracting candidates, then your applicant tracking system is the most important, or maybe one of the most important tools you have available. And also what we see, of course, with the ATS is a lot of people don't really capture the value from an ATS from 0 to 100. They only use a fragment.
Yeah. And then I see a trend, and you see this too, of course, with that a lot of people say, okay, my ATS can't do this or doesn't do that, or I don't know how to use it. Let me buy a CRM. Does that really solve the problem?
No. No, it doesn't solve the problem. Simple question, simple answer. In practice, it's more difficult because a CRM, you typically use a CRM to log data of traffic of candidates or customers who visit your website that you don't have a relationship with. And an ATS typically only saves data of people that you have an applicant or a resume from. But you can also use your talent pools in an applicant tracking system, or you can connect your email or your marketing automation tool and store the data in that kind of system, and you can integrate that with your ATS. So there's a lot of solutions by keeping the ATS as your basic, where a CRM is not really necessary.
Right. I personally agree, but I think it also has to do with the fact that a lot of people probably see their ATS as a standalone tool. So it might be interesting to also talk a little bit about the difference between, a toolbox and a stack, if you know what I'm, aiming for.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so typically, for example, before we started this interview, I thought about so how many tools and which tools am I using myself? So you probably already use a lot of tools yourself. For instance, you send emails. Either you use Gmail, you use Outlook, or you use your ATS to send emails. You probably also use something for chat like Slack or WhatsApp. You probably use, in this case, the last couple of months, you're using a lot of video meetings, software tools like Zoom or Microsoft Teams. And these are pretty much standalone tools. not integrated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why should you integrate your email with your ATS, for instance? Not necessary, right? But if you start thinking about the potential of integrating the tools, and integrating the tools, the goal of integrating the tools is to capture the data flows and to make sure that the one data from the one tool goes to the other, so you get the valuable insights. And that's when we start talking about, when you start integrating the tools and start using data from the tools, then it becomes a stack. So normally what you see is you have sales tools, marketing tools, and they're set up like silos, so they don't talk to each other. And if you want to capture the value, then you have to start integrating it, and then that's when we talk about a stack.
So your advice would, if I may summarize it, be like, look at the data you already have, the touch points you already create, the flows you already have, and start by getting the actual value out of it by connecting those data points and flows, by integrating your stack.
Yes.
And then you can actually start orchestrating a full journey and get the full value out of it.
Yes, and what's fun about this, and what's really nice, and a lot of people don't know that, is that, when you think of this marketing stack and marketing, it's almost always about attracting new customers, new candidates, new sales leads, whatever. But it's a stack focuses more on capturing the value of what you already have. So that's absolutely true. And there's so much potential if you unlock the value of what you already have in data in those silo tools, that imagine the possibilities when you start connecting those dots and connecting those tools. You as a marketeer, you're in marketing heaven, because you have so many insights. You say, hey, if I would have known this 3 or 4 months ago before, then I would have taken different decisions.
Yeah. And I can imagine that everyone who's hearing this and might not be like at a super advanced level thinks, well, this is all great, but what if I have all these tools that all have their own, let's say, insights and reports, and how do I combine all of this? Where do I learn what is the truth? And classically speaking, which 50% of my marketing budget is working and which one isn't, and how do I move forward? So what do you think about data? How do I get my insights out of this entire stack?
Yeah, data. We can talk for hours about data. As I'm really fond of data. I'm not a data purist. I always look at it from a business focused perspective. So what can you do with data to increase your business goals? First, again, it's starting with your objective and goals. What do you want to reach? Are you in? What kind of business? What business are you in? Are you able to measure those goals at this moment already? Yes, no. So set up some really good analytics tools which allow you to measure that data, and then once you start setting up those analytics tools, which could be Google Analytics or Power BI or Google Sheets, whatever, then once you start doing that exercise, you'll start seeing that you're missing a lot of data, and then think about how to enrich that data to understand the full candidate journey, and then take it step by step, and then you'll see you'll get very excited.
Okay, so let's say somebody is watching this and says, okay, cool, I understand if I want to build great candidate journeys, I need to integrate and build a recruitment marketing technology stack. What are, let's say, the top 5 pointers that you would give them? Like, what are the things that they really have to keep in mind during that journey?
Again, I would say, if so you're asking me where would you start, how to build a stack, right? Or
what are the most important things to keep in mind when you are building your stack?
So again, first, I've mentioned that a couple of times. It's goals and objectives first. Clearly set what you want to achieve. Then select the tools that work for you, not the best in class. Check your budget. Look what's available in the market. And it's really important that the tools integrate with each other. And last number 5 is pick tools that have proven themselves.
Right. Yeah.
So I think these 5 points, I would say these are the most important ones. If you have clear goals for these 5 points, then you can start, building a grid, building a design for yourself, a wireframe, and then just see where you miss any tools to help you get that data.
Right. And so when we talk about that first point, right, which is to me always the most important one, is actually understanding why you do what you do, setting your goals. Can you give us maybe a practical example of one of your customers, or just a random example of what would be, let's say, the business goals that a true recruitment marketeer would be pursuing, and how would they translate it into, let's say, more marketing sub goals?
Yeah, so in my opinion, as recruitment marketeer, you should be business focused. So you should always gain for profit. So contribution margin. So you want to know whatever you do, you're spending money, and you want to know eventually what is that money, how is it generating profit below the line for our company. So what I see in practice, a lot of marketeers, recruitment marketeers, they focus on applicants, or they focus on clicks or views, or also all very interesting, but they're only submetrics. So your main goal should always be generating profit, right? So what you want to understand from is peel down the onion principle. So how do I understand follow the money principle? How do I understand which channels and which data is going to bring me the most profit in the end of the day? And that's where you work backwards. So first you won't know. You get an applicant. I don't know. Is that applicant interesting to our business? We'll be able to place that applicant at a company. So some examples from companies we work for, we typically just start with this process. There most of the time, there are not any clear goals. Just I ask them, what are you guys chasing? Oh, yeah, applicants, views. Okay. Then first we start by setting the true KPI and setting the most important metrics to measure. And then we go from that gradually. So first we understand the attribution, which channels are attributing to hires, not only applicants, qualified leads, and hires. And then eventually the step would be the contribution. How much are the channels contributing to our below the line profits? And that's eventually what you want to know. So if you spend 10K a month on Indeed, you want to know the return, right? In profit, not in turnover.
Yeah. Okay. And so to make it practical, I can imagine there's a lot of difference between the people who are going to be watching this. So let's start by the example that we see most, right? Which is the person that is solely responsible for recruitment marketing. They don't have a lot of budget typically. They are getting started. So next to, of course, setting those objectives, understanding the business goal, and making sure you can peel that onion back over and over again and optimize it. What are other practical tips that you would give a person like that?
Set your own objectives and goals, and design a diagram for the tools that you have available to you at this moment. And then find the missing gaps in tools that you need to help you understand those goals. And then don't make it too difficult. You don't have to go to attribution, contribution in half a year or full year. That's just giving some perspective. So first, try to understand where are my most interesting applicants coming from, and are they interesting? Just talk to your business colleagues. Just set up meetings and share information, and then later on, you can talk about integrating other tools to get that information uploaded to you automatically. And you can share that with your colleagues. But at first, just keep it simple. Don't make it too complex, because that's the biggest pitfall, that you see a lot of pictures and then a lot of interesting stuff, and then too complex, and then you don't get it to work. So start small.
Understand what the business. So understand what the business wants. See what already contributes to that. So find basically the path of the least resistance. Is how I would translate that, and double down on that. So find your first successes, see what you are missing out on, and start slowly building up your stack and your flows. To become more and more successful over time.
Yeah, exactly. So when you start with a simple stack, you don't have all the information you need. So that's my point. Just talk to the business, talk to sales, talk to recruitment marketeers, talk to whatever people you have around you, to ask them, hey, the applicants that came through that I got delivered to you through Indeed, were they valuable, yes or no? And then start using that information to improve. And once you get a feeling with that, then you can start integrating tools and automating. But if you start automating just purely out of automating, you're going to automate garbage processes and garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah,
So first
that makes
focus on the
sense.
process.
All right, and let's say you are working on that. Do you have any recommendations on how to prove success and to further build that stack and that budget and so forth?
Measure, 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 measure.
Mm.
Start measuring until you, just, and again, measuring and talking to the colleagues around you. Are they happy? Are they giving you compliments about the applicants you've attracted? Is the applicant happy? I think that's the most important one. Not only the data part, but are you also more collaborating more with your colleagues, and is there more information shared? Eventually, of course, you can prove success by just looking at your data and am I reaching my metrics? Am I reaching my KPI and my objectives? But at first, I would just start by, again, communicating and just asking if people are happy with the results.
Right. And so if we go to a whole different setting, let's say I am the vice president of recruitment marketing at a Fortune 500 company. I can imagine that one of the big differences in that case is that I get to have a team, right? Next to that, probably I have a lot of compliance issues and fights with my communications and marketing team in-house. I think building a team is of course a very big part of my job in that sense. So, for example, what kind of specialisms would you like to find back in such a team, in a recruitment marketing team?
And in basics, I would always like to see someone on marketing communications. I would like to see someone on the database or email marketing. I would like to see someone focus on online channels, all the job boards, Indeeds, and that kind of stuff. And I would like to have someone focus on analytics, data tracking, so conversion manager. So if you have to flatten it down until a small team, I would say it's basically three roles. You have one person working on conversion, tracking all the data, making sure that conversion gets improved on the daily level. The second one is the online marketeer, who's focusing on the channels and making sure that you're visible there where you want to be. And the third one should be someone focusing on content creation.
Right. And can you give us an example of, let's say, the typical tech stack that you would find in such a situation?
Of course, Renee, I created a wonderful new picture for you. So what you see here is a more complex situation. It would be an example of something next level where you've integrated more tools. Again, let's start at one of the most important ones is the job site. And in this case, you might also have a corporate site because you're a global Fortune 500 company. So in this case, I've chosen Kentico as a content management system because you're global, so you want to be able to manage those websites across all countries using your own content management system. Of course, you can choose a different one, but this is just an example. So within the CMS, you host your corporate site and your job site. Then you see a tool called OnRecruit. You might be familiar with that one, Renee. And then on the right hand side, you see Autopilot. Autopilot is a marketing automation tool, mostly used for email. And then you see an ATS. In this case, I chose CareerX, but it could also be Connexus. Of course, doesn't really matter. Just as an example. And on the right hand side, you see the channels again. So in this case, I'm using OnRecruit as a data warehouse and a data piping tool. So all the data I'm capturing from all these different tools, I want to be in one single point of truth. And in this case, I'm
Right.
using OnRecruit. So OnRecruit is capturing all the information from my email program, Autopilot. With Autopilot is also synced with Careerix. So I have my talent pools in Careerix, dynamic email listing. So whenever a new candidate comes into my ATS, it's automatically synced to Autopilot. So I can put that person in the right segment to automatically send them the right emails, etc. I might use a tool like Zapier, which is a data piping tool. Basically comes down to creating what if scenarios. So what if this event or this trigger, then I want to shoot off this event. It's a really basic tool. You can connect a lot of information. And then at the bottom, you see Google Analytics, because you might want to look into Google Analytics occasionally. But your dashboarding and reporting tool in this case, I selected Power BI. And so the important thing about this stack is you focus on integrating and making sure the data flows connect and they get pulled back to one single point of truth. In this case, OnRecruit. And OnRecruit visualizes the information into a dashboard or a report using Power BI, and then you use as a marketeer to make decisions. As a recruiter, you can see your whole candidate and hiring funnel. As sales, you might see the sales leads. You'll have your engagement scores. And as a global head of recruitment, you have a very nice management summary because you don't want to go into all the details.
Right. Yeah, so I can imagine that at the moment there's a lot of recruitment marketers in the market who have a pretty basic stack and they want to build it out and they understand why and what can be done. But they have C-level executives that not necessarily don't understand that. So what would be in your mind the top 3 reasons, for example, or arguments that they should take to the C-level, explaining why they need to build out the tech stack, why they need that buy-in and that budget?
So you want to convince the C-level team or the board or other people in your organization to start building up a stack. I would say you have 2 possibilities. One is you can build a small business case using benchmark data, because there's a lot of data available in the market. You can call some other companies or some peers, talk to them about, and create a business case. If you want to convince them with actual data, you could, of course, set up some experiments. Most of the tools are available to you for free, first month trial, or you can set up something at really low cost, set up an experiment, run it for a month, maybe 2, maybe 3, and then try to convince your board, your team with actual results. And once of course, the first thing you do when you start the experiment, you decide on the hypothesis. That's a difficult word in English. So you can convince them on the actual data, and you can prove the results by showing them.
All right, sounds good. When we look not just at how to build a stack within recruitment marketing technology, but also what is the future, I want to talk a little bit about developments that you see maybe coming from other markets into recruitment marketing, and also technological innovations that you see being implemented more and more, or that you predict will be more and more implemented within recruitment marketing. So starting with, let's say, practices that you see in the market that are coming to recruitment marketing more and more. Can you give us a few examples of what you are noticing?
Yeah, from my own experience, what I'm seeing is recruitment is a lot of e-commerce knowledge and best practices being brought to recruitment. There's a lot of stuff that works in e-commerce that you can use to help and inspire in your recruitment business. So that's something we see. For instance, the whole attribution modeling, contribution modeling, that's something that's very common in e-commerce. If you, of course, are a high-level e-commerce player, not a small one. So that's something you can translate and use in the recruitment as well. Second is we see a lot more people asking for dashboards. They get excited with a little bit data and they want to know more. We see a lot of people requesting dashboards, reporting, insights, from Google Sheets to Supermetrics to whole next level stuff. That's an interesting trend. What practice. And what I also see is that a lot of companies and people are thinking about automating their data. So there's a lot more interest in marketing automation, recruitment marketing automation. So how can I use these tools to standardize my standard communication, like thank you for your application, or something like happy birthday email. How can I, because you don't have the capacity. If you have 100,000 resumes in your database, that's impossible to follow up on all those valuable people by phone or by traveling to them in face-to-face meetings. So a lot of people are thinking about how can I do that in a more efficient way. And the whole measuring subject, that's something that's interesting. There's still a lot of companies have no clue or don't even know what's possible. And once they found out, they can pretty much measure the whole candidate journey. So from source until hire, that's like, wow, that's like a magic box opening up. So that's also, I think, and that's just a starting point. So a lot of some companies are already doing this or experimenting with this. And then what you see is people start talking to each other. So the sales departments, marketing departments working more closely together and actually collaborating on how can we both together improve business results. And that's always a very inspiring thing to see.
Nice. I think that's very helpful for a lot of people watching this. My next question is a little bit more on the technology side, right? So, and that probably also is related to what we just talked about. So, what kind of innovations and technological developments do you see maybe outside of the space or already entering the space with regards to recruitment marketing? What new tools are being added to the stack? What new innovations are being used?
I think there's three main trends going on at the moment. From my line of expertise, we used to talk about a suite, cloud suite versus a best of breed approach. For instance, Salesforce versus using different type of tools and integrating them. And that's something you see right now, that the whole suites are integrating also with the best of breed tooling and vice versa. So that's something that's coming together. That's interesting development to watch. The second one is there's a lot more custom apps being developed. For instance, WordPress Solo already has 55,922 plugins available, which developers around the globe are creating. So there's now much more technology available to developers or other people to create their own tools. So you see a lot more niche and a lot more, smaller tools also in the market. So the number of tools is growing rapidly. It's insane.
Yeah.
And what you also see again, then it's the larger companies taking over the smaller companies, like companies like Adobe, Marketo, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And the third one is is the whole software companies versus services companies. So you see software companies also offer some more services, and service companies are also offering some more products or turning their services into code. So that's also coming together. You used to, when you used to want to have a Salesforce license, you had to go into a very expensive, probably take a long time implementation partner, and that in the future you see that more coming together.
All right. Last question for today, at least. What resources do you follow, or do you recommend others to follow when they want to, learn about what's happening within marketing technology, or maybe specifically recruitment marketing technology?
Yeah, I would say the inspiration I look at the most is chiefmartech.com. They also create a very nice overview of all the marketing tools available. That's just marketing general, so that includes recruitment marketing, developments, whatever. So all the marketing tools. That's a nice website. They will keep you really up to date. A tool I use very often, if you want to understand which tools you're using or which other website you're using, is I advise you to install Ghostery. They have a Google Chrome extension which you can install. Then if you browse any website, whatever, you can through that tool you can see what type of tools the other companies are using that might be inspiring. And if you want to know more about business intelligence, reporting, data, then I would suggest you follow Avinash Kaushik, who's also written Web Analytics Today. It's a very famous book. I think he's a really data purist, and he'll inspire you a lot about turning your data into actionable insights.
All right. I have to personally admit that I don't follow most of these, so I have some work to do. Thanks for that. And overall, I think this was very insightful. Thanks a lot for sharing your advice and your insight and your knowledge. Also on behalf of everyone who's viewing this.
Well, thank you, Renee, for having me. It's always interesting. I'm really excited about this topic. So once you get me talking about this subject, it's hard for me to not stop talking. So that was a difficult part in this interview. I'd like to give you a lot more information. So if anybody wants to know more, then always feel free to connect on LinkedIn or whatever.
Great, thanks, Jeff. And for those
Thank
who
you.
watched it, and for you who are watching this, thanks a lot for tuning in, sticking with us. I hope you learned something from this. You can always reach out to Jeff or me if you have any questions. We're going to help you forward whatever way possible. And I hope you enjoyed episode 1 of Bolier Talks Tech. And I hope to see you in another episode again soon.